guys? It's me, Juan, Pablo from 100% Finance at 100percentfinance.com. Mr. Cash Flow, Mr. Passive Income, the people's mentor. I got what you need to succeed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate your viewership. The topic of discussion for today is the top 4 mistakes I made. Yes, this guy I made when doing my first deal. So much like you, right? You had these dreams, these aspirations to becoming financially free and independent. You wanted to quit your day job, no longer having to work for someone else. I was frustrated. I didn't want to be that person who was underpaid but overworked. And I'm sure you feel the same way I did. So I desperately wanted to close on my first deal. But when I closed under my first deal without sound mentorship, right? Coaching, in other words, which we offer at 100% Finance. Without that sound coaching, I made some mistakes. So hopefully by the end of this video, you will learn from my mistakes so you won't have to make them. So let's go ahead and dive into it without further ado. The first mistake I made was actually with the seller. When I purchased the property and I conducted a property inspection with a property inspector, the property inspector outlined everything that was wrong with the property, from the roof all the way down to the basement. And speaking of the basement, there were some electrical panels, as well as some small repairs that were needed in the basement, like in regard to the steps and so forth. And I said, hey, it needs to be fixed. And the seller counter said, okay, well, I'll fix it myself. I said, sure, no problem, Mr. Seller. If you want to fix it, go ahead. He fixed it, and I took a look at it, me without having that inspector eye, right? Even to this day, I don't have an inspector eye, but I rely on the eyes of a certified inspector to tell me everything that's wrong with the property. So keep that in mind. Always have a team of advisors, whether it's for property inspections, whether it's for appraisals, whether it's for real estate laws. So I get that question asked all the time. Well, Juan Pablo, how do I incorporate an entity in my state that will be beneficial for holding real estate? I don't know. I don't invest in your state. But I know someone who does know, a board of advisors, someone called an attorney, as well as business funding. We offer business funding. And if you're wondering, well, how can I raise capital so I can continue to do deals after deals after deal? Well, you want to have a business funding coach, which we offer at 100% Finance. So just check the links below. So you want to make sure you have a team of advisors. And so back to the story, I didn't know a clue about repairs, whether it was a good job, decent job, or a bad job. But I just said, hey, it looks done to me. And we closed on the deal. And lo and behold, the electrical panels were not replaced in a proper way, and the repairs weren't done in an adequate manner. I had no one to blame but myself. But I learned a valuable lesson from that. Always request repair allowance credit. So at closing, if the repairs are $10,000, you can talk to your closing attorney, the settlement company, as long as the seller agrees that you want a repair credit. So the repairs are $10,000, hey, give me a $10,000 at closing. So in other words, guys, if you're supposed to be bringing $50,000 to the table as a down payment, you no longer have to bring $50,000. It will be $40,000 if you were able to negotiate a $10,000 repair credit, and you use that money, the $10,000 that you saved, to have your team do it in a decent manner. You always want your team to do it, because if the seller do it, guess what? If the seller does the repairs, he or she may not do an adequate job. They may do the cheapest job possible, but you want that job to be done in a satisfactory manner, so that way your tenant can move in and be happy to stay at that property. So that's the first mistake I made. Not negotiating, I should say, a repair allowance, but instead I allowed the seller to do the repairs. The second mistake I made was no screening. I hired a tenant. She seemed nice, she seemed sweet, but she wasn't. She was a beast. She negotiated with me, hey, you know, I'm a single mom, I need some help, but I don't have the first month's rent and the last month's security deposit. Can I just move in, you know, just with $900 and I'll pay you the rest of the money in 3 weeks? Sure, no problem. So for one, I didn't do a criminal check on this person. I didn't do a background check in regard to their credit. I didn't do a landlord verification, and I also didn't do an employment verification, okay? And that's like property management 101. So you definitely do not want to put anybody into your property unless you properly screen that tenant. So that's one of the pitfalls. And this leads to my second one, as I just mentioned, I did not collect the full first month's rent and last month's rent. You might be thinking, well, that's conventional wisdom, Juan Pablo. Every landlord, even me as a tenant, Juan Pablo, every landlord I've been with always did it. Well, unfortunately, I was just getting started. I got my first property closed when I was 26 years old, and that just flew over my head, all right? And that happens a lot to people too. When they reach out to me for coaching, when I tell them, hey, you should do this, they say, you know what, I didn't even know that, Juan Pablo. I actually did the reverse or the opposite prior to signing up with your coaching program, and I ended up losing money. I never knew. I never knew. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. The mentorship is ideal for you so that you can have a shortcut to success. So that the mentor can soften the blows because he or she, or I in this case he, has been there, done that, so that you won't go and experience the same pitfalls that I made. Now the next thing that I made, the fourth mistake that I made on closing my first deal, which was a 2-family in Jersey City, signed the check. So this 2-family, I had one tenant in which she didn't provide the first month's rent or the last month's rent. I didn't screen it either. And I got a second tenant. Now she did provide a security deposit, but not the first month's rent yet, because I made it my aim to tell the young lady, hey, in order for you to move in, I need a full security deposit, and you can pay me the rent about a week before the first. And she said, cool. And a week before the first came, she was a no-show. Kept calling her, non-responsive. So I took her check and said, all right, I'm going to deposit her security deposit check. Went to deposit it. A few days later, it was a bounce check. Why? Is it because of insufficient funds? No. It was simply because she did not sign the bottom of the check. As a result of her neglecting to sign the check bounced. And I had to forego another month because I had received no money and that unit was vacant. And I had to go back to the drawing board to advertise that unit to lease it out. So those are 4 painstakingly mistakes that I've made starting out on my first deal, and I don't want you to make those same mistakes either. So I have right here, ladies and gentlemen, the first deal, right? We're having a special workshop and program as well that tells you the ins and outs of how to get started in real estate, how to close on your first deal in 12 weeks using wholesaling and lease options, so that you can make at least $12,000 per year. This is no fabrication. This is no false thing. This is actually real instruction that you can implement right away to close on your first deal. And the only thing you need is some tutelage, whether it's through an online program that we offer in our courses or meeting us in person. So just make sure you check the link below to learn more. But we go over all the information, letting you know how to close on your first deal. Because I get these questions all the time being on social media. Well, what makes a deal to begin with, right? Is a deal something in regard to you buying the low and selling the high? I don't know. Is it a deal because the seller is motivated and willing to do seller financing, but you didn't run the numbers or do the cash flow analysis? I don't know. What should I do with my pockets, so to speak? Should I invest my money in a buy and hold strategy? Or what should I do in regard to how to screen a deal, analyze it? I just don't know. So we go over all these things, and people ask me all the time, so what do I do with my money, Juan Pablo? Should I pay down debt? Should I buy my first residence first that I should live in? Or should I buy an investment property starting out? Should I do wholesaling? Should I do lease options? Should I do any other buy and hold strategy? Many people have those questions. We go over the ins and outs as well. So it's not just doing the thought processes of closing your first deal, but also how to. It's very technical, meaning this is how you wholesale from A to Z. This is how you do a lease option, A to Z. This is how you do a sandwich lease option, A to Z. This is how you do a master lease option, A to Z. Now, if any of these terms sound like a foreign language, then that is a signal that you need to get started and learn this information as quickly as possible so you can start applying it as quickly as possible so you can be financially free, independent as quickly as possible. So check the links below. Hopefully you found value. As always, guys, this is to your success to continue to earn passively, live passionately. Peace.